Yo, what up, what up, what up, and welcome back to P Noid News, man. Listen, how y'all doing tonight? I'm out here handling my business, doing what I'm doing. I'm sorry I was finished setting it up the stream. Because it's kind of important that we have all this like where it's supposed to be as far as things is really concerned, right? Like, yo, everybody in the chat, yo, let me know, you know what I'm saying? If you motherfuckers can hear me and shit, let me know that like my voice is coming through and doing what it's supposed to do, right? Because I'm not sure whether or not it's actually, like really doing what it's supposed to do. All right, so universal mode when the addition categorization began and under what criteria? Like y'all let me know in the chat. Can you motherfucking hear me? You know what I'm saying? Like yo, holla if you hear me. You know what I'm saying? Because I got the hook up. It is what it is. Anyway, so I wanted to have a conversation. All right, good. You can hear me? Cool. All right. So I wanted to have a conversation about motherfucking Ukraine and, you know what I'm saying? Like break down some very basic stuff so everybody can understand exactly what's going on with this. This is the Northern European plain. All right. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, this here is basically Europe, you know what I'm saying? And Russia, whatnot, you know what I'm saying? And this here is kind of the area in question about, like what Russia's actually trying to invade, right? This is called Crimea, this little, small bullshit island or whatever it is, right? Now, with that being understood, I want y'all to understand exactly what Russia is going to be motherfucking doing. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So wait. That's not the one I want. This is the one I want. Okay. So this here is what's known as the Northern European Plain, right? And if you haven't noticed, there's some mountains on this map. I grabbed the topographical map because I wanted y'all to understand like exactly what the Russians are attempting to do. Okay. So really simply put, right now, you know what I'm saying? Their border, is fucking massive. Like you see this big red line here on the right hand side with all the arrows pointing in and out at it. That is all flat land, and at its highest is basically Indiana. Okay, legit. Like there's just no high points in the entire fucking thing. So like you can just drive right in, no matter where you are, and just run a tank right to fucking the goddamn Russia. That's a bit of an issue for them. So what they want to do is they want to extend their borders out to the point where, like they are actually like up against the fucking Alps. Kind of the mentality, because it's kind of difficult to get motherfucking, like that. It's kind of difficult as an in general thing to get tanks over the Alps. So if you're going to fight a ground war against, like fucking, a country, it's much easier if you can just kind of funnel them all into one area. That's kind of what's going on. All right. And that's why Russia's doing what it's doing. So, with that being said, I want to stand here and kind of get to motherfucking Moldbug and shit. Right. So like, it makes a lot of sense. Right. Like this is kind of where it's at. So like when you have less people because you have, like a demographic decline, because, you moved all your people into fucking cities, this tends to end up being the case. So you don't have as many people to be able to defend your fucking borders. So, this is why Russia is doing what they're doing. Right. And kind of the deal. All right. Now, with that being said, let's get into Moldbug, right? Because Moldbug kind of agrees with me. I didn't get my point from him. I kind of got my point on my own because I feel like we should have always had a neutral fucking policy towards the world because, we probably really shouldn't care when it comes down to it. All right. So this is from January 17th. But there was like 3 of them I wanted to do, but this is the one I kind of decided on. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of my mentality. Like this is the one that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this one because like we do geopolitics over here quite a bit, right? And it's something that I feel like is, really starting to matter more as, the system kind of breaks down and everybody's not able to eat, So, yeah, exactly. Your blue collar connect, exactly. Right. Anyway, right. So let's get into this. And Joshua Demers, man, fucking the retarded genius. It is nice to see you out here. So let's get into this. A new foreign policy for Europe: give Russia a free hand on the continent. Either that fool Putin is about to invade the Ukraine or doing an excellent job of pretending to be. This is very encouraging for clowns like me who still believe in history. It suggests that history at the late year of 2022 might not even be over. Some Americans believe that this is unacceptable. That's a paraphrase FDR. America's frontier is in the Carpathians. For those who believe that Europe, even Eastern Europe, is America, full of proto-Americans who have not yet taken trouble to apply for their blue passports, there is no alternative but to fight, to defend sovereign nation of Ukraine and its important energy resources, etc., along with the fundamental principles of international law. America must defend herself. This aggression will not stand. The utterly realistic concept of a guerrilla war in the 21st century Europe has even been broached by the sensible grown-up department paid $750 billion a year to defend the United States of America. Seems like a good idea, right? Let's start with some geopolitical facts. Right? You know what I mean? All right, let's get this. All right, the historical context. Ukraine was the core of the original Russian state, and had till New Order was a band. Yeah, until New Order was abandoned, been a province of Russia roughly since James II was king of America. Ukraine is slightly less Russian than Texas is America, and way more Russian than Alsace is French, and way more Russian than Alsace is French. There was a few centuries where it was overrun by the Turks or something. Any civilized Ukrainian speaks perfectly good Russian. The Ukrainian language is a peasant dialect. The president of the Ukraine isn't even fluent in the Ukrainian argot, which is slightly more important in normal urban life than Welsh and Wales. Like the South Sudan, the modern nation of Ukraine is a joke, drafted by the Senate or drafted by the State Department, a historical coincidence conceived in Stalin and Alger Hiss's collusion to give the former UN vote, in very important General Assembly for each of his provinces. Then given birth in one of Boris Yeltsin vodka binges, and William II is in the picture too, somehow. And it's a great day to break up the Soviet Union. The situation, as I see it, now freshly bedecked with this gain of function laurels and showered with confetti after the victory of Afghanistan, the USG turns its eye to a land war in Europe for the purpose of rescuing this bureaucratic construct from the 1990s out of Kaiser Bill and by Alger Hiss and Boris Yeltsin. Americans, friends, countrymen. If we have a dog in this fight, then every dog is ours. I submit that not every dog is ours. Please do not ban me for my doubt that every dog is ours, even for my belief that we should have no dogs at all. Right? That's kind of the mentality, right? When is a country independent? Like Ukraine's never been an independent country, like short of the 1990s. It's always been a fucking Russian country. It's always been part of Russia. Like this kind of the mentality, right? Anyway, right. So anyway, right. More than anything, Russia wants to access the Mediterranean, as without it, they are locked from a Western naval location for military trade. Yeah, Tatsuakai, you're not wrong, right? In fact, I think that if America could decide if we had no dogs in any fights besides our own, and who would fight us but to fight our dogs, this world without allies would prove superior, not only for all Americans, but also everyone else. Dogs should be free to run and play. They should not be chained up all day, and the right to make war is the most fundamental attribute of national sovereignty. In our Neo-Westphalian future, there is no puppet states and no fake countries. Every nation is independent. It exists by its own might. And if that might fails, it disappears, right? Yeah, Canucks, we understand these things, right? Like, legit, like you understand it. Like I believe that we should be like a neutral fucking country when it comes to these things. Like we don't have any real reason to not be fucking neutral, right? And people say, it's isolationist. Truth is, it's neutrality, right? They've stood here and they took away the word neutral and gave us the word isolationist and then made isolationist a dirty word, right? But I'm not gonna let them do that. I'm neutralist, right? I don't want to fucking be involved in all the rest of the world's problems because, we shouldn't be taking sides against anybody. It doesn't fucking matter, legit. Like it's not our fucking business. I mean, like who we do business with, who we should let our companies do business with, I can see from a human rights perspective or from an environmental perspective going like, yeah, man, we don't do that because it's very, fucking dirty and it pollutes our ground. And if you don't have any environmental protections and you still do that, we're not going to do business with you either. Like that's kind of the mentality. Like basically, everybody should be playing on the same fucking level footing. But anyway, I mean, short of, really poor countries like Sudan or some shit. Do what you do. because there's not that many of you, and you're just trying to earn a living, right? Anyway, right? Is the one so the real question is, does Suvorov Ukraine? I don't know. Right. Anyway, oops. It's the sovereignty of Ukraine. Yeah, man. Listen, like they're as sovereign as they can be, right, by themselves. And if they can't be sovereign, then fuck them, right? Anyway, right? Wargaming it from Putin's perspective, the Anschluss of the Ukraine is a great idea. However, the trouble with Putin is that his great ideas are only great in the abstract. Somehow, he never quite achieves greatness in the concrete. I mean, he's trying. You know, what I mean, like, yo, they continue to motherfucking try and push against them. For instance, why isn't Crimea one of the world's jewels of real estate dotted with charter cities full of global nomads? Crimea would be like California, but with police instead. Instead, so far as I know, it's a half-ruined backwater ruled by some petty local thug. It seems important to caveat this discourse that if the real Putin invades the Ukraine, this will probably not be good for the Ukraine, either in the long run or in the short, but it should be, since this is an essay about the theory of foreign policy rather than some kind of Moscow-sponsored tongue bath. Let us imagine an abstract, an ideal Putin. Invading the Ukraine will probably be quite good for both real and ideal Putins. The real Putin will strengthen his image as restorer of the great Russia and firm up his internal power position. Sanctions against Russia will not harm its business as a trade surplus energy exporter. They will harm Putin's westernized opposition. And imagine if Russia demanded gold for its natural gas. The ideal Putin would turn the Ukraine into a perfectly governed jewel of the new reviving post-American and post-liberal Central Europe, with traditional clothing, modern transportation, and fiber optic internet, but without porn, K-pop, or the gay. Well, it does seem unfortunate that this will not happen. Take a walk around Moscow, preferably from your home in San Francisco, and measure the distance to the ideal. But screw Putin. Forget these Slav squatting track-suited snow apes. What's in it for us? What about America? We're all good Americans, right? Hang on, man. Listen. There we go. Obviously, gray matter can have no influence on the Biden administration, but unless one of these Saurians keels over, we are headed straight towards a Biden-Trump 2024. A savage 2024. A real plate-throwing showdown in America's broken marriage. Even now, we can all feel the tension winding up. We do not need to mention the real Trump. Obviously, I don't know the real Trump, but what would the ideal Trump do? If Trump triumphantly returns to office in 2024, his first goal must not to use power, but to take power, to relentlessly grow the scope of his office by bold, decisive action and proper arena for this action is foreign policy. Trump's goal is to expand its power rather than getting results, because results are revenue and power is capital. Rather than fish with his hands, he makes a fishing rod. Action creates power because the action makes precedent. If Trump can act on a scale on which no president in living memory has dared to act, his enemies will be daunted and afraid. His fans will be exhilarated and emboldened, and he will find it easier not just to get results, but to take even more power. Victory creates more victory, and there's no such thing as too much power. Of course, if these actions are bizarre, imprudent, and detrimental to America's goals, they become counterproductive rather than productive. What Trump needs is not just enormous actions, but enormous wins as soon as possible, as big as possible, right? Of course. Oh, wait. All right, yeah, here we go. And those wins must ride roughshod over the most heartfelt beliefs and assumptions of his foes in the administrative state, then prove themselves by palpable success. It is much easier for a new president to assert his constitutional right to control the executive branch by controlling foreign policy, since foreign policy, by definition, has no entirely domestic axe to grind. The president's right as chief executive of the executive branch to dictate the budget, policy, and personnel of that branch is at its clearest in diplomacy and defense abroad. Therefore, Trump needs a dramatic foreign policy win that will be palpably good for America and for the world in general, but can only be achieved by annihilating some network of power within the so-called executive branch. Ideally, the policy win is so complete that no organization can plausibly remain. The problem is simply gone. Right? It's not a bad idea, right? Under a Trump administration, the goal of U.S. foreign policy in Europe is to impact domestic policies in America. There's no realistic American foreign policy goals in the usual sense for Europe. Realistic foreign policy goals are either military or economic. Europe is not a military threat to the United States in any way. Europe has a trade surplus with the US, which means that cutting off trade with Europe would, by definition, grow the US economy. Rather, under a Trump administration, the goal of U.S. foreign policy in Europe is to impact domestic power in America. For example, the fall of Afghanistan liquidated the organizational structures within the state and DoD that supported this shambolic puppet state. These structures are tough, but they cannot survive the end of their purpose. The liquidation of Ukraine, comedian presidents, petrochemical magnates, and all will be an enormous blow to both state and defense. I will suggest to all states, other client states, that Washington can no longer guarantee their sovereignty, whether by diplomacy or by force. Right? That's not, you're not wrong. And by the way, yeah, Ukraine has a comedian for president, just so y'all know what the fuck's going on over there. Or literally as bad as we are. Just so motherfuckers have some clue about what the fuck's going on. Give Russia a free hand on the continent. But thinking only in terms of the Texas of Russia is thinking way too small. Rather, Trump should give Russia a free hand, not just in the Russian-speaking territories, but all the way to the English Channel. The goal of Trump's foreign policy in Europe is to withdraw American influence from Europe. This will guarantee the defeat of liberalism on the continent. Here in America, this will show liberals and conservatives alike that liberalism is immortal, with gargantuan effects on the morale of both. And as Clausewitz said, all conflicts are mainly about morale. Yo, you're not wrong. Yo, that is, let me read that again, right? The goal of a Trumpist foreign policy in Europe is to withdraw American influence from Europe, right? This will guarantee the defeat of liberalism on the continent. Here in America, this will show liberals and conservatives alike that liberalism is mortal, with gargantuan effects on the morale of both. And Clausewitz said, all conflicts are mainly about morale, right? You're legit. That is fucking beautiful. Liberal ideas are not indigenous to the region. They are Anglo-American ideas. They washed in on the tide of money, fashion, and bombs. And what nation has done more and better work in the last 2 centuries at defeating liberalism in Europe? While the Germans in the 20th century may have tried, the Russians in the 19th succeeded. Russia defeated the revolutionary dictator Bonaparte. The hooves of the Cossack horse clattered on the cobblestones of Paris. Russia founded the Holy Alliance and anchored the lead of the 3 emperors, dedicated to the blackest dyed European reaction. Russian troops quelled the revolution of 1848 and freed Hungary from liberal tyranny. Russia's reward for this was an insane Franco-British aggression of the Crimean War, an early deranged incarnation of the 20th century liberal imperialism. Now it is Russia's fate to again restore order in Europe. Since America is stronger than Russia, though, Trump needs to let Putin really know it's okay to do it. There's only one way to send this message unequivocally. Withdrawal from Europe. Yo, he's not wrong. Legit, he's not fucking wrong. Like this really should be what happens, is that we just walk away. Like, I don't understand like why we're holding up the ceiling for other countries. That's not us. Like, oh, fuck Trump. Like, whoever it is. So just go fuck it. Why are we still protecting these asshats? Trump will order the withdrawal of all U.S. forces and diplomats, all bases, embassies, and consulates from the continent of Europe. Any diplomatic conversations, if any, are still necessary, can be handled by email or Zoom. Public diplomacy, Woodrow Wilson's open agreements, openly arrived at, is always the best. If these facilities did not exist, no one would invent them. In their nominal purpose, peer-to-peer communication between sovereign governments, they are anachronous in their actual purpose. Client server supervision of satellite governments, they are obnoxious. By withdrawing all American personnel stationed in Europe, Trump is not abandoning Europe. He is setting it free, much as Gorbachev freed the Warsaw Pact. I agree, Joshua Demers. Fuck them. Like 100%. Right. If these the new condition of Europe is that it need not answer to America, right? For its form of government, whoever rules France is the government of France. The government de jure is the government de facto, as President Monroe put it 200 years ago. Our policy in regard to Europe is not to interfere in the internal conflicts of any of its powers. to consider the government de facto as a legitimate government for us, to cultivate friendly relations with it, and to preserve those relations by a frank, firm, and manly policies meeting in all instances. The just claims of every power submitting to injuries from none. It's incredibly based. Monroe, you know what I'm saying? France had better not mess with us. But whatever the regime is in France, whether the regime in France is fascist, communist, monarchist, racist, or anarchist, we will buy their wine and sell to them our Disney merch. We don't even care whether France is still France. It could split into little baronies. It could be a province of Russia. The terror will remain unchanged. Policy for the ideal Putin. Given a free hand in Europe, Putin will not even need to use it. There will be no tank army sweeping through the Fulda Gaps, 1976 war game style. Even a winter gas cutoff will be hopelessly heavy-handed. Did the U.S. invade the Warsaw Pact in 1989? They did not need to. It was the obvious center of gravity. Russia simply needs to provide backup and support for the counter-American regimes that will naturally emerge when American influence is withdrawn. The French military is already fantasizing about a coup. We'll realize quickly that nothing at all prevents that coup, or even requires the resulting junta to be temporary. In fact, nothing prevents a coup from restoring Louis the 20th, not to be confused with Louis the 10th. You know what I'm saying? Hound dog. You know what I'm saying? How you doing, my brother? You know what I'm saying? Nice to see everybody the fuck out here. Loudest Patch Kids, Ballistic. We're just covering some Moldbug. You know what I mean? Fucking man, listen, Moldbug always gets me good views. And I'll be real, it's safe content. I don't have to worry about like YouTube trying to like destroy my channel over it. And it's cool things for us to think about, right? Anyway, any such regime could justify itself merely by restoring an urban public security, safe, clean streets with no-go areas. No one who had lived through the late democratic period would forget the difference or the insanity of taking the old world for granted. Imagine thinking of the 2022 style urban squalor as normal. Many of Putin's actions seem directed at shoring up his domestic authority. This is very weak by historical standards, since Putin is not in fact a czar. He has to pretend to be an elected democratic politician under the rule of law. This concession in his own surrender and his country's surrender to the global rule of democracy, which is or was the global rule of the Anglo-America. But that was then, and this is now. America has pulled out of Europe, not including Britain. Yeah, because like we do own Britain at this point. They're ours, right? It follows that just as the old post-war Europe was a laboratory of democracy, the new post-Trump era must become a laboratory of reaction. Once Putin has a free hand on the continent, every old European nation will find a helping bear paw in restoring a traditional culture and form of government. The more autocratic and legitimate, the better. And straight to the I don't actually I have met some guys on Discord who actually say like we need to like motherfucking defend fucking Europe and shit, or we need to defend Ukraine, right? Like, yo, the US State Department cares. Like legitimately, like, and people in America care because they're like America's influence in the world. You know, we have to make sure we maintain, you know, fucking global trade and all this fucking bullshit. Like, people still fucking buy this shit, this neocon, Bill Crystal bullshit. You know what I mean? But you know me, man, like I'm a neutralist. You know what I mean? Like I'm a neutralist. Like I'm not interested in dealing with anything, right? Anyway, the fundamental problem of Putin's regime is how to expand his personal power in both depth and time. In depth, he must be more autocratic. To be more able to personally command everything everywhere. In time, his regime must last not only his whole life but far beyond his life. Right? We really don't care. I fucking feel you. Like I don't care either. Right? Anyway, so okay, so the illegitimacy of 20th century dictatorships is a black mark on autocracy because it contradicts autocracy. A temporary autocracy has instability built in, since a dictator of another fake post-Soviet Union, Lukashenko, must pretend to be an elected politician. No one can be sure what will happen when Lukashenko dies. Here is weakness in the strongest of regimes under the strongest of strongmen. Therefore, Putin's interest in occupying Europe is to field test Russia's own future as a legitimate autocracy. In other words, an absolute czar-style monarchy. Since every European country was at one time a monarchy. And since the concept of mob violence, guerrilla warfare, etc., in modern Europe is comical, encouraging a pool of experiments in reaction, monarchy, and autocracy, experiments whose results may be applied in Russia itself, seems like the obvious move. There is some danger to Russia in actually restoring the vitality of old Europe. Seldom has Russia been able to go pound for pound with France or Germany, but considering the state of those nations today, it will take many years for this to be a serious concern. The end. So, anyway, the mental is this, right? When it comes down to it, what is it? Because like he's a monarchist, you know what I'm saying? I'm not a monarchist because I really don't like security isn't my major big ticket item, right? It's not my thing, right? When it comes down to like I'm not a big major security guy, right? So like monarchy don't matter to me. Like freedom is way more important than monarchy. And part of this is the fact that, you know what I mean, like he is of the of the artist university brand people. And you know what I mean? Why am I still expected? Yeah, I fucking hound dog, I'm with you. Like I fucking got that's my mentality. I don't understand that shit either, right? Anyway, you hold on. Let me motherfucking I'll drop this link in the motherfucking joint, right? So y'all can hop in here if y'all want to hop in here. Anybody wants to come in, you can motherfucking come and chill. All right, throw that in there for the moment. You know what I'm saying? But like I have the same mental as a whole, right? Like I have the same exact mental. But anyway, like the reason why like he's a monarchist and you know what I'm saying, like I lean more towards um I don't want to say anarchist, but it is anarchism. You know what I'm saying? I lean more towards that mentality because, you know, I don't need people to protect me or take care of me. I'm not scared of the fucking world and shit. You know what I mean? Like that's really what it is. Like I'm not scared of the world around me. Like I'm not terrified of the human beings who live around me and shit. That's kind of where shit really is, and that's what it's hitting for. Like I'm not worried about whether or not like some dude's gonna come rob me because like I wish a motherfucker would rob me. I wish a motherfucker would try me to fuck out because you know I'm a soldier. You know, what I mean, I'm a fucking warrior. I'm of the warrior class type of people. He's of the artist class type of individuals, and they always need somebody to protect them. And I get that mental. I understand where it comes from. Like I get that. You know, what I mean, just like all the people who are like, these Mexicans are bringing in all this crime and they're doing all this nonsense. It's not, you know, what I mean, something that like I don't want to argue that. I'm like, they're taking away jobs from like hardworking Americans and shit. That's my issue, right? That's you know, what I mean, that's you know, what I mean, fucking that's kind of where my brain gets to as far as shit's really concerned. That's why, like, a lot of y'all, like, a bunch of people bitched about my video, my last video, where I stood here and I argued that, you know, what I mean, like, we as one generation, you know, what I mean, to another, we should be able to sit here and, you know, have a conversation about whether or not, like, these rules that were passed before us, you know, what I mean, should continue forward right? Because like I feel like it's a fucking travesty that us as men we stand here and we have to live under rules that we were never fucking like we never were even asked about. Like not one of us were ever like asked if like we're okay with speed limits or like fucking helmet laws or you know what I'm saying having to have insurance or fucking IRS taxes or whatever the fuck it is. We were never asked about any of this. We were never fucking like we never signed a thing that said, yes, this is how we want to live. It was just automatically we were born into it. And I feel like you should have a right to go law by law when you turn 18 and literally go like, I don't want this anymore. You know what I'm saying? And like if enough people say that, then it fucking goes away. Right. And they have to pass it again. It's that simple. You know what I mean? Yeah, look, man, it's not even, I don't even really, I'm Bradley. It's not even about the Mexicans. You know what I'm saying? But Tom, we got porn though. Like I like porn. I'll be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I think every man likes porn when it comes down to it. If you don't like porn, you might, you know what I'm saying, not be a person, right? Or you might not have looked at the right type yet. Like, find your fetish, homie. You know what I'm saying? The illegal workers are not worthless. You know what I mean? I fucking know a lot of like motherfuckers who hired illegal workers and they will get the job the fuck done. You know what I mean? They will lay brick and run drywall the same or better than Americans for like way cheaper. Well, all right. They'll do the same job as an American will, you know what I'm saying, for like a quarter of the price. And that's the issue. Or, you know what I mean, like, or you can just pack a factory full of them and, you know what I mean, like fucking throw out all the union motherfuckers that were there. You know what I mean? That's kind of the mentality. Well, like blue collar cannot gotta remember they're not illegals. They're legal people, right? You motherfuckers imported them because your people see, they fight inflation through using motherfucking things like immigration, right? Like they don't have the money to pay for the stuff that they want to pay for. They just print the dollars off, or the loony, as it were, in fucking Canada, because you fuck people. I don't even know why the fuck you call it a loony, but whatever, right? But anyway, right? So, like, they print the money off, and instead of like actually having growth, you know what I mean, to be able to, you know what I mean, eat up the motherfucking inflation, what they do is they just fucking bring in immigrants to keep the prices down of labor. When it, you know what I mean, because like, yo, they can't pay your workers what it would cost, because then they would end up, you know what I mean, having to raise prices and show the fact that like their system doesn't work. That's the mentality. You know what I mean? Yo, that's how that operates, right? And then on top of that, it drives up the cost of, you know what I'm saying, like fucking housing and like fucking food or whatever it is. Well, not even food, because like literally like, they use immigrants to fucking produce the food to keep the prices down. But it drives up the prices of, you know, fucking schooling and, you know, all your local shit, that type of shit that, you know, I mean, that you have basic demand for. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, like that's, you know, I mean, that's what they do now. And I would prefer a system where like the worker was more looked after and the citizen was more looked after than, you know, I mean, the fucking economy. And you would have a real conversation with people and be able to have a real conversation. Go, we really can't afford this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yo, dude, Johnny Boy, legit. That's exactly what I'm saying. Right. You know what I mean? It's that simple, right? Legitimately, they would go, no, we don't want to pay for this, right? And like, yo, if you ask any 18-year-old, are you okay with the government putting into debt to pay for old people? They would go, no, fuck them, right? And it would immediately end. That's the point. Nobody ever asked them if they were okay with that shit, and I feel like we should be asked. You know what I mean? Like at bare minimum, you should have like a basic conversation with motherfuckers and go, hey man, you know what I mean? Is this cool? You know what I mean? Okay, Lavish Patch Kid, if you want to argue about that, legit, man, here's the link, right? You know what I'm saying? You can come in and try to make this argument to me. But like, I'll be real, I don't think, you know what I'm saying, that it's actually a fucking thing. You know what I mean? Let me put this up on the screen so motherfuckers see what I'm talking about. Right. All right. See, he says, Tom P, the key thing is that king's wealth is tied to the real economy and health of his nation, where globalists after World War II make more money betraying the nation. They had to get the boot. Well, but let's talk about this, right? Because this is important to understand. A king's wealth is naturally tied to the land, right? That's kind of important, right? What about my Santa Cruz sticker? I don't know, right? The king's wealth is, you know, what I mean, tied to the land, it's tied to his holdings, it's tied to taxes, it's tied to, you know, what I mean, fucking trade, it's tied to tariffs, it's tied to a lot of different things, right? So basically, he has a way to always make money. Like, yo, monarchies always make money. They never, like, they don't lose money as an in general thing, but they don't make as much money as, say, you know what I mean, like a stockbroker would. You know what I mean? That's the mentality when it gets down to it. Authority comes with responsibility. Agreed. Right. And like the agreement is he defends the realm. You know what I'm saying? And like you live in the realm and then you pay him fucking taxes. That's where it really comes from. That's where the shit actually operates at. And that's why, like, I agree with the economic concept of a king, but I don't agree with having a king as an in general thing, because it's hit or miss. And kings take extra privileges that I don't like, right? And they take away privileges of the citizens that I don't like. Okay, you know what I mean? Yeah, like fucking like, yo, go to sleep then, do what you do. You know what I'm saying? I'm debating on it after this, right? I wanted to get this shit off of my head before I'm all fucking like passed out myself. You know what I mean? That's what I do. Like this is kind of like a psychology thing. When you're able to write some shit down or you're able to put some shit out, it makes you exhausted and cleanses your mental. You know what I mean? This is basically like me showering my brain. You know what I mean? Allowing it to wash all the fucking bullshit out, right? Yeah, I feel you're too tired. Do what you do. You know what I mean? Like, yo, I'm tired myself. Like, it is what it is. But, you know what I mean? I wanted to drop this. You know what I mean? I wanted to put some content on the channel. I thought it would motherfucking be helpful. I didn't put the link in the Discord this time because I wanted the motherfucking, where's the general chat going on? Time? Maybe Discord, maybe. I mean, like, yo, if you want to hop in Discord, you can do that. I mean, I got some other shows I got to pop into tonight. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Yo, I had the same effect. Just listen to y'all talk about this. I feel where you are. You know what I mean? But that's where I am. So, like, I'm going to hop off of here. You know what it is, man. Like, yo, hit that fucking Streamlabs link. Hit that Patreon link. Support the channel. You know what I mean? Like, yo, I don't like doing this for free, but I will because I'll be honest with you. I gain as much from, you know what I mean, learning about these things to talk to y'all about it as, you know what I'm saying, like y'all do from being entertained about it. And it's a beautiful relationship we have here. Not truly concerned about getting paid. And I love doing this for y'all. So it is what it is. But anyway, yo, look. Peace be like one. Y'all enjoy y'all motherfucking night and shit. I'll be back tomorrow with something new. Peace. Later.